welcome to Thank Me Later, and we are entering another episode of Thank Me Later Real Life. I am Tiana Bridgeway, the marketing director here at Thank Me Later, and I have the pleasure of interviewing two lovely couples today. I am a single woman, and whether you're single, you're married, in a relationship, on the way to marriage, this is going to be an amazing session. We are talking about the business of Black love. It's Love Month, y'all, so get ready for a real conversation, because it's Thank Me Later Real Life. So, let's start off introducing the couples. Hey, y'all.
Hey,
How y'all doing?
Good.
Well, we will start with Jini and David. So, saying your names, but if you guys want to introduce yourself, you can talk about how long you've been married, how long you've been together, how many kids you guys have, and any other details you feel is necessary to share as we get started.
I'll let Jani take that.
I'll take care of that. Okay, so we have been married, it'll be 28 years this month in February. We have been together 33 years. Yeah, he likes to count all the time. He
count
said he
them all.
wants credits for all the time.
Give him all the credit, okay?
Like transferring your
What do you
credits
do
over.
with the credits? Do we
That's
do
nonstop. I mean, we gotta have that's
We
that's
counting
total
it all.
number. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And we have 2 adult children, Trevor and Cameron, 27 and 31.
Amazing. Well, congrats on your anniversary.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
And Oni and Will, hello, beautiful people. Same question for you. If you guys want to talk about how long you've been together, how long you've been married, your kids, and any other details you want to share.
I'm taking this
Yeah,
too.
you are.
Okay. Some Ani, Will. We've been married. We just did the calculation before we started taping, so this is accurate. 12 years. We dated for 4.
Right.
We're gonna get our credits.
So 16 all in.
So 16 all in. We have 2 children, 10 and 8-year-old, and we're just happy to be here. Thanks for having us.
So excited to talk to you all today. Well, we are deciding to take a different spin for the Love Month and talk about the business of Black love. So, marriage is about love and happiness, but also about business and managing a household. And so today, we would love for you guys to be open, transparent, help the people navigate how to manage the household and manage money in your household. So, it's a safe space, okay? And I would love for you guys to just share what's on your heart, whatever you feel would be helpful for the audience today. So
Cool.
let's get it going.
We're ready.
Okay, so let's set the stage. Let's take a step back and talk about our family upbringing. Because as we know, how we grew up, our childhood does influence how we manage money as we enter relationships and enter marriage. So my first question, and I'll start with Jini and David. What were you all's family's values growing up as it relates to money?
You want to start?
I'll go first.
Okay.
So I always tease David that I was just always, the center of the universe. So I was very spoiled as a child. So I didn't have everything. I had 5 of everything. And so I just grew up thinking that was normal. I just grew up never even really wanting anything. I always had things before I really wanted them. And so I just grew up with this whole notion of being spoiled and, things kind of going my way all the time.
And I was the opposite.
Okay.
It was me and my sister. We weren't, poor is relative.
Right.
When you grow up in a community, you don't realize it until we went to school outside of our community. And that's when you could see that there was a different way that we grew up. So I'm not going to say money was tight, but it was. I didn't have 5 of everything. You know what I mean? A lot of what I had to, if I wanted stuff, I had to figure out how to get it, or figure out how to do it. We were just talking about how I know how to cut hair, and that's because I couldn't afford to go to the barber to keep my hair tight. And so I had to teach myself how to cut my hair, and you know, and my aunt bought me a set of clippers, and that's just the way I had to figure it out. So yeah, a little bit different.
Awesome. All right, Oni and Will, what about you? What was your family's values about money in your upbringing?
So what you'll find interesting, we're both only children. So that already, you know, everybody thinks spoiled automatically when you say only child. So, and I think there's some truth to that, right? So definitely was very fortunate and had a lot of things, but I never considered myself spoiled. My family, parents divorced when I was about 7. Okay. So life was very different depending on what side of the house I was in. So when I was with my father, who was an accountant, very money savvy, he talked about investing. He talked about real estate and properties. That was normal, you know. Prior to even them having a divorce, they owned a apartment building. My parents did. So that was kind of normal. But then divorce, real life happens. My mom, who was not really good with money, which I learned very early, it was always the conversation of, I don't know how we're gonna make that bill, or you know. So hearing, like, literally having like 2 different worlds as a child that I went back and forth between, and so, you know, I valued both. I was very like, you know, sensitive to the need of people as single mothers because I had a single mom. But then on the other side, I was more savvy because I have a dad who talked about investing and things like that very often. So I kind of got, I would say, the best of both worlds. Really, very different, very different.
Yeah, so it's a little bit opposite with me. My parents have been married now for, I'm 41 years. Both kind of from the inner city of DC, pulled themselves up, and just hardworking people. And it really came to values of hard work, saving your money, owning your own. When we weren't rich, I didn't want for anything, but you know, I didn't go for anything that I didn't need. But it was a lot of values about hard work. And my dad, even though he wasn't college educated, is probably one of the smartest, most analytical people I've ever been around. And if Ani's gonna laugh, when she first started coming around, you all know about these old black and white composition notebooks. He wrote everything down in the budget in there. Even to this, he's starting to use a computer now, but even to this day, he would just say, I gotta write everything down, but that's how he processed how money was coming in and coming out. So watching that come up, you already knew the value of budgeting. You knew the value of don't spend more than you make. So it was that, we didn't really talk about it, but you just saw it through an example. I mean, they did well. I mean, for 2 people from the, you know, inner city of Washington, D.C. have made it, retired, and they just done very well by being good stewards of their money.
Funny story. I swear this happened, and often. His dad, we would go home for the holidays in D.C. and, you know, be there for extended period of time because we don't live there. And I would see his dad with all these sticky notes putting on his mom's computer. I was like, what is going on? This is what you spend. Like, he was like, man, like sticky noting. And he was like, you're over your budget. And he would put a sticky note on it. I was like, oh my gosh, is he telling her? I was like, it was hilarious. But she's like, I need accountability. And so that was the approach. And he literally would walk around with these sticky notes and would be like, and she's like, what's this for?
That's a good man.
So, you know, it also showed me some of that, you know, with him. Obviously, I didn't grow up with him, but being able to see that even now in our relationship has been pretty interesting.
Yeah. And that was a follow-up question. So, how did your family values impact the beginning of you all's relationship as it relates to money?
I'm going to take this one. Man,
everybody's perception is their truth.
I'm going to tell you.
I just want to say that out loud. Lay the groundwork.
Before we get too deep.
So I was worried. And I was worried, and she knows this, I was worried because of what she had to deal with and growing up. And her mother is such a strong figure in her life. So I was worried that she was going to bring that into what we were walking into, because I had stability, if you want to call it that, and she didn't have stability. So I was worried. I was like, man, we're going to fight about money, we're going to fight about this. But the good thing is we ain't had nothing. So like when you don't have nothing, what is there anything to fight about? So you got to learn how to build. So that was the saving grace. And we both value, and I say we're both very analytical, we both are money conscious. We wanted to live a certain life, but we didn't want to be poor living that lifestyle back. I mean, again, it's relative, so poor might not be the right word. We didn't want to have certain resources to live a life. And we wanted a family, and at some point you want your next generation to be better than the generation that you're at now.
Right.
And we really, at first, we didn't think about generational wealth. Now we're starting to think about that, but it was important that we weren't going to take all the resources so we can live this lavish lifestyle. I don't know if you want to add anything.
What he says, it's just interesting, but he did think that because of the perfect example, or I guess, or analogy I can give you, Waiting to Exhale, Angela Bassett's role. That is almost how I viewed my mom. So if that gives you any,
we talking about the car burning up.
Not the car.
That's where my mind went.
Oh my gosh, I wasn't ready. Okay,
I would say more loyalty.
No, but more the help start the business.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So my mom helped my dad start his business. My mom only worked part-time, but kept the health benefits for our family while they were starting the business.
And then they got divorced.
And then they got divorced. So then you're talking about life just changed drastically for us. And so I always identified with that. And so in my mind, I married my dad, right? Probably very similar.
I wouldn't say that.
I think they're similar.
Right.
But I was just, I do think that some of those things were concerns. And I think that's, that came out in our pre-counseling, which was talking about money, like how we were going to handle it, how we were going to split things. And so that definitely was a conversation. And I think the only biggest thing and he swears he does not remember this. My friends used to talk about me so bad.
We're going there?
Yes. I told him I wasn't marrying him till he got that credit card debt. I was like, listen, sir, it wasn't even that much, y'all. It probably was like $2,000. And if I laugh at it, it's funny now, like maybe $3,000.
It wasn't even that much.
But he had just got out of school, going back home, had a full-time job. He didn't have any real bills. I'm like, homie, you can pay this off if you were serious about it.
It's called living life.
It's called I was adamant about it. I was like, you need to figure that out. So those are some of the conversations, and they were like, you are just ridiculous, right?
She was dead serious.
But I was serious. Because I didn't know. All I had was school loans. And we both knew we had that. So I kind of knew what we were going in with that. I didn't even have a car. Neither one of us had a car note at that time.
No.
We didn't have car notes.
Yeah,
So I was thinking about those things, but I think it was because of my father's influence why I was thinking about those things.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Awesome. What about you, all?
I forgot the question.
It's just funny to hear them even talk about pre-planning and
People do that?
What?
Y'all just don't have kids and then you try to figure it out.
There you go.
So clearly you guys took another route. So care to expound upon that? Well, the question was, how did your family's upbringing influence the beginning of your relationships? So you can kind of answer that, but then also talk about kind of how you guys started off your marriage.
No, it's really, like I said, we came up in two different ways. Her mother, if she didn't have it, her mother was going to save her. You know what I mean? And I didn't have that. There was no safety net. So that took us a while to kind of get used to. Neither one of us were like really big spenders.
Well, you're not laying the proper background and context that we had children first.
Yeah.
So we started our relationship under a significant amount of duress and stress.
Yeah.
So a lot of people get to finish college and you start working and you're planning your family. We had our first child in college. 4 years later, we had another baby. Then we got married.
We weren't living life well.
There was no life. We were buying diapers.
Yeah, I was living a different life.
And formula.
Adulting for sure.
We were adulting, so we started off in the red, and we started out under a lot of stress, which we didn't have enough. You talk about being married and not have enough. Not only did we not have enough, we had 2 kids. So it was stressful as hell.
And we, with 2 kids, we still wanted to make sure that they lived a certain, life.
Right.
Thanks to Jini, our kids always went to private school. We had to figure it out. So we always put our kids first. So, yeah.
And I think the adjustment for me was I never knew what it was to want something until this part of my life. Because I had always had everything. So now it's like we have to wait and we have to talk about stuff. It didn't make any sense to me. And so growing up in a household of a single mom, you know, my mom was ultra independent, adopted me and my brother. She was never married. So I never saw people talk about money. My mother did what she when she wanted to. So I'm thinking that's how I move.
Right.
So he was trying to have more collaboration. I was just like, why we got to do it this way? I was just used to doing things my way.
And not that we didn't talk about much about money in our household, except the fact that we didn't have
any.
That was a conversation.
That was a
Like,
topic,
nah,
right.
can't do that. Yeah, you can't do that. Or figure out how to get the money.
How to get more money.
Right.
You know
I
what
think that was
mean?
probably more
That
about
that
it.
was more the conversation
Yeah.
is if I
How
wanted
do we?
something, I had to figure out
How do we?
how
Yeah.
to, you know, get money. So that was more the way
Yeah.
I grew up.
So we was not suggest doing things in this order.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Noted. So I imagine it takes a level of self-awareness to be able to know where you are and how you approach money and how you operate in the household. So on a flip side, how did you all evaluate each other's relationship with money? Like, is it something you learned over time? Is it something that, well, you guys had premarital counseling.
That is
So
so funny
kind
to
of
even
how
hear
did
that.
that?
Like people do that for real?
Yes, Jini.
We're gonna direct this question over
Okay.
here.
People do that, Jini. Oh my gosh.
Yes, when they do it right.
I'll say this. You never know. You can talk about it. You can do counseling until you start living with the person and seeing habits.
That's true.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
True.
That's
That is
very
true.
true.
So I thought we knew each other pretty well, but it's times that things get tight and I say we should do this or defer that or charge this. Then not no real argument, but we'll just have difference of opinions. And then you got two highly analytical people that's together. Sometimes that can be a battle because one person thinks they're smarter than the other, then you have to deal with that too. So it's just you learn habits as you go along. I'll say now we're probably more in sync than we've ever been.
Yeah, I agree.
Life, COVID, a lot of other things makes you more in sync, and then we're a little bit probably more sensitive to how each other is thinking about money. Because I'll go on selfish spurts and do what I want to do. She'll do the same thing, but if you do that, then you're still messing up, the household, and you're messing up the pot.
Yeah.
So I don't know
Yeah, that's true.
if you got anything.
What I was gonna say was, I think I had to learn that what drove me crazy about David was actually something that was good, because I've always referred to him as cheap, tight. But what?
Yep.
Facts.
And it used to drive me crazy, but I learned a lot though of how resourceful he is. Like he can repurpose things in ways that I would never think about it. He researches things to death where I would just make a decision. And so it's funny when you're an accountant and you're good with money and you do what I do professionally, people make assumptions about behavior. But he has a more disciplined behavior. Not that I'm, like crazy and irresponsible, but he moves very differently. But a lot of it's personality and upbringing. So I think I've had to learn to say, oh, okay, he's cheap because, you know what I mean? And being cheap, he was proud of being cheap too. You know what I mean?
I still am.
I think you make a good point. I mean, any part of marriage is work, but the more you know your partner, the easier it is to work through. And money's no different. Money is no different. If you understand your partner, you can get through almost anything when it comes financially.
Right.
And I would say we were probably you're the spender.
Yeah, I spend.
I spend on house stuff. Like
You drive me crazy, man.
I want to feel like an adult. Like I want to have a nice couch, a nice rug. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For him, that's like, what are we wasting that for? We don't need that. That's for other people. I'm like, no,
like
it's
this
for
painting
us.
you just asked me for the other day.
But I do want this painting.
Girl, get the painting.
Shoot that for that number.
I again, but this is a person who shops at Nordstrom's.
Oh yeah.
And so what I had to learn early was he had a whole different perception of his childhood. Well, my perception as I've come to know him a little bit more, but my husband shopped at Nordstrom's when he was in elementary school. Like, that was a normal thing for them.
Yeah.
That wasn't normal for me. Like, I didn't start walking into Nordstrom's until I really started meeting him. But it is our relative, because I think in my mind, Nordstrom just sounds expensive. And they have sales. They have, you know, and he's right. But it was an awful limit stuff for me. Like, I didn't know people who shopped there. So, you know, their biggest thing they, you know, pick with me, his parents as well, only costs a little bit more to go first class. Only a little bit more. Oh my gosh, because I am niggling. I'm like,
Right.
You want that? How much is it?
Right.
I'm good.
Yeah.
And so,
That's
you know, it is a
it.
difference. And I'm doing better with trying to say, okay, I'll get that. You know, I like that. I can get it.
Will, I'll be with you in first class.
No, and I, you know,
Right.
I like good, nice things.
He does.
But I get like a thrill if I could get it down. If I could get that and get a deal on it, like I won. I beat the system.
That's celebration.
You know what I mean? So it's
Like
like a game to
Like,
me.
it's a
yeah.
high to him.
It is.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I can see that for David, though.
Oh yeah.
And then I guess the other thing, too, my mom was a flight attendant for 40-something years. I flew first class everywhere I went for free. I got the free meal. I got the drink.
Now you don't pay for it.
So for me, been there, done that.
Right.
I had to wear the church dress every time we flew. Like, that was how we had to dress to be, you know, so it wasn't that big of a, I guess it wasn't that big of a deal. So now when I have to pay for it, I'm like, let's just sit in the bag.
Coming out my pocket.
Yeah, I can sit in the bag. But
get there at the same time.
But he has figured, and so to the point of resource, like, he does all our travel, because I don't think like this. He's thinking about points.
Yeah.
He's thinking about, okay, we're gonna get comfort, we're gonna get a companion pass because we have these kind of credit cards. Like, he has a whole system, and it's way too much for me. So I just go with the flow, and I'll be proud. I just walk up.
It
That's
works.
what-
Is this our zone?
What we doing?
Okay,
Right.
This is our zone?
I'm a
You
G,
and you add my work traveling? Oh
Yeah.
my God. Yeah, it works.
So he's resourceful in that way, and that has really helped our family. And so I got to give him a lot of credit. I used to really I was real mean about it.
I just
gotta
need to
tell
be
us-
on the plane
Yeah.
and not in the middle seat.
So you talk about first class. So I'll tell a story about this. So it's pre-COVID.
It's pretty fun.
And I travel sometimes for work. So I ended up getting clear because I got tired of standing in line.
Right.
If I'm traveling, I'm trying to get in and out. So I bought clear for a certain rate. This lady, I come home and is giving me the business. It almost calls me everything but a child of God because I got clear. How much is it going to cost me? I'm like, calm down. It's going to work. So she's going back to Florida for something. I forgot. Maybe I'm with the kids. I forgot. She calls me and apologizes. She don't never do this. She's like, I'm sorry. I'm like, what you mean? I almost missed my flight. But then I remembered we had clear. So now I got through the line.
I didn't get through the line.
So, and ever since then, she ain't fussed one bit about
So
what
now
we paid
you like
for
clear.
I love it. I mean, when I tell you I acted, I was like, I can stand in line. We regular people. Like, we gotta be doing extra things. But I think, and now as I get older, what I also realize is a part of my money upbringing, because my dad was that person and I was the only child, people already had a view of me or what they thought I was. And it bothered me.
You try to work to be
So I
opposite.
tried to always
Yeah.
prove that you don't really know me, you think you know me.
Right.
And so what I ended up doing was going over and beyond to prove something different. And I ended up taking away the things that I actually maybe wanted,
Right.
but because people already thought that's what I was going to do or do, I was like, I'm not doing that just because that's what you think I'm going to do.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I've learned now, I'm learning now, like, okay, do you really want it? Like, what is this really about? Or are you trying to prove somebody different? So some of my upbringing, I think, has some negative, even though my dad, you know, had some, they had me older. My parents like 33 or 34. They were all much older. And back then, that's really considered old back then, older. And so they were already kind of, life was set for them. They really knew what they, you know. So that's something I've noticed and I'm trying to work on in our relationship. I think that comes out,
Yeah.
unfortunately, through us.